We have a data set before us, and as people expect many times to have a data set where everything is already in place, many times when you get data set, it is not always like that. You know, when you get a data set for machines that have written code most of the times, you don't usually get it just sorted in columns and everything just perfect for you to start doing your visualizations or to start getting insight from. There are so many steps that are involved, in getting your data whole, getting it ready, getting it perfect to that point where you can, start making visualizations. You can start getting insight, and you can start doing so many things many beautiful things that you want to do with it. For instance, if you work with, I've worked with many data that are in this format. This is a format we call CSV. CSV means that every piece of data in your data set is separated by a comma. When we say CSV, the full meaning is comma separated variables. So when you are working with CSV files, most of all your data will be separated by a comma. It's not always CSV. Sometimes you have tab separated files where all your data are separated by tabs. Sometimes you have semicolon separating your data. So, but one important thing is you need to put in mind is, okay, for instance, if you buy stuffs in ShopRite, you buy stuffs in Spar, and they take your products in front of the screen, and it records the products that you buy, the price and all those things. It's going to store it somewhere, and where it's going to store it eventually is not going to be, it's going to be in a form like this. It is when the data analyst goes and picks it out to analyze that he can then make it to be in the appropriate form that he can work on. So we have our comma separated file before us. Let's look at how we can convert to the form we are used to seeing in Excel. Because if you can look at this very well, you will see that all of the data are in one cell. All of the data in one cell. Let me click on cell B1 so you can see that there's actually nothing in cell B1. Let me extend this. You can see that this cell A1, this cell B1. So there is nothing actually in cell B1. Cell A1 is the one that contains all of our data. And when you see comma in this kind of files, comma is representing that another column starts from there. So this data, as far as we are concerned, is supposed to be in like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 columns. But then the comma is what is representing a column for us here. So what we'll do is, in the first instance, we'll try to split this data set into the appropriate columns. And I taught us how to do that over time. Like I said, we are going to just be working with everything I've taught us today. And if you are going to be introducing some new concepts, just very few of them. So the first thing we need to do is select our column, where we have the data set, which is column A in this instance. So once we make a selection of column A, we can then come to our data pane. Once we come to data pane, we see the split text to columns option. The split text to columns option. So once we open that up, we can tell Excel that, okay, our data is separated by comma. So once we choose our separator, which is comma in this case, Excel understands to split the data into columns based on comma. So anywhere Excel sees a comma, it understands that another column of data is supposed to start there. So it splits the data into columns. So once we apply this, we can see that, let me erase this I wrote the other time. We can see that now our data is beginning to look more meaningful. Unlike the other way it was when it first came in and everything was just, a bunch of numbers and commas. So we can see that, yeah, this is starting to look like something we've seen before, or something we are familiar with. Now, when we look at the first row of the data, now that we've been able to separate the data into column, when we look at the first row of the data, we can see that we have headers. These things are supposed to be headers to the data. They're supposed to tell us what we are looking at. For instance, we see, you might not really understand this date format now, because then I've not actually come to format the data. But then you can see branch. You can see that this contains name of places. You can see the sales agents. You can see that this contains name of people, actual people living in real time. you can see products that these are laptop types. So this automatically tells you that this is your first row. It's supposed to be your header. So what do? Let's just make it bold to always remind us that it is our header. So I will make it bold just to remind myself each time that this is my header. Yes. So now we can see that this is our header, and then we can proceed to move on to the next steps. So what do we do next? What do we do next? What do we do next? Now you've separated your data into columns. You've marked the header of each column out to signify that the header is different from every data set in the body. Now, what you now have to do is that you have to look at, the format of each column. You have to look at the format of each column. Like when I taught us data types, I told us that there are different types of data types. We have text data types in text format. When you have strings of characters, A, B, or combination of many other alphabetical characters. Like in this instance, where we have sys agent, they are all names. So these are texts. They are text. So in this case, the data type for this will be text. But let's start from the beginning. So coming to the date column, looking at the dates, we see that the data type, as we can see from here, is not in the correct format. So what we do is that we correct this by bringing it into the, by assigning it the correct format. So since I know that that's a date, sorry about that. Since I know that that's a date, what I will do is I will just come to the format here. I will make it a date. Depending on whatever you want to make it, we have the short date format in Excel, and we have the longer date format that shows you, the actual day and so many other information concerning that particular date. Now you see that Excel recorded this date as just numbers before. If you looked at this column before now, you see 4,000, 5,000, and the rest like that. Yes, those signify the date, but then since it was not in date format, Excel was just representing them with numbers at that time. So now that we are converting the column to date, Excel knows better to make them look like dates. So, but then I will use the short date format. So I'll use the short date format. Once we get that out of the way, we can look at the next column. Sorry, am I too fast? If I'm too fast, please notify me so I can reduce my pace. Hello?
I was just trying to look at what was in the column of dates before you went to short the what was in the column. I didn't take.
Okay, let me see if I can go back to that to show you what I did. Okay, did you see this? This was what we had there before. Can you see?
Yes, I can.
Okay, let me explain this to you.
But that doesn't look like a date, right?
Yes, I understand. I'm trying to explain that to you.
Okay.
Just hanging there. Yeah. One thing about Excel is that please mute your mic and just put your video off. Okay. One thing about Excel is that it was created in a particular day. So from that day that Excel was created, that particular day that Excel was created is marked day 1. So if you put in a number into Excel, and you don't tell it that, okay, Excel, I want this number in date format, Excel will just take that number as a count of a number starting from the first day Excel was created. So I will show you an instance. Let me input the number 1 here, and let me say the format is date. This is what Excel is doing. Excel is turning down my number 1 to January 1st, 1900. I believe that was the first time the software came out or something like that. So that is what Excel did in this case. Because I've not told Excel that this is a column of dates, Excel represented all the dates by numbers. So that was simply why you couldn't recognize that the data sets were dates in the first place. So if I've answered your question, please just signify so I can know that I've sorted that.
Yes, you are.
Okay, thank you so much. Okay, so I believe we can move on from here. So then I selected my column. Now I said we need to format each column. We need to select the kind of data type we want in each column so that each column can conform to what we want. So looking at the date column now, I don't want it as numbers. The date is coded as numbers here, but I wouldn't use that in my calculations. I want real dates. So I'll change the format of that. I'll come right here and I'll change the format of that to my date. Okay, so now I have my date. I have my date, which looks, acceptable, more acceptable to me. No one can decode that 4,000, 41,000 and something is this date. But now you can easily look at it and pick what it means. So then I will look at my next column, which is my branch. If you would observe that all the data here, they are in text format. So what I have to do is I have to just change the format. I have to format it as, text. There's a format here called text. So since they are all characters, A, B's, and C's, and like that, so I can format it and say this. I want this to be text. Now, one thing about Excel is that once you bring in data, and Excel does not know the format, it just highlights it as general. That's why you see general here for most of everything. So Excel just takes everything as general until you now say that, okay, Excel, this is this is that, this is not this. So this is the form Excel gives everything. So the same thing for my sales agent. I'm going to make it text because what I have there is combination of alphabets. Then I can come to my products to the same thing. Since I have combination of alphabets too, I'll make it a text column. So once I come to my units, this is a different column now. Different data types are here as opposed to everything we've been dealing with. You see that this data type is in numbers. So what I'll do is I'll come to my format, my formatting options, then I'll come and select numbers. But now it's giving me numbers to 2 decimal places. And I know that what I'm dealing with here is units. That is how many laptops, for instance. And you can't want to make a count of laptops and say 2.0. I can't say I sold 2.00 units of laptop. That does not work. So what I'll do is I'll just convert that to a whole number. So I will reduce the decimals and convert that to a whole number. You see what I did? I just reduced the decimal places. You click on here to increase the decimal place, and you click on here to reduce the decimal place. So I just reduce the decimal place for me to have my numbers as, whole number. Then I have my price column now. A price column looks to be a bit different from the other columns too, because when I'm talking about prices now, I'm talking about money. So I can't format that as date. I can't format that as text. I can't format that as ordinary numbers too. I want to make it really look like money. Price is money. Okay. So I'll just come and select the format I want, currency. Okay. So I'd love to work with dollars in this case, but then if you don't feel like working with dollars, you want to work with any other currency in the world, you can come to this place, click on this icon, select more accounting formats. Once you do that, you have access to all the currencies of the world, I guess. So I think there is a portion for Naira too there. Yeah, so there is Naira too here. For instance, if you select Edo or Hausa or Nigeria, I think this Fulani also, you can have access to Naira. But then I don't want to work with Naira in this case. I want to work with dollars. So I'm going to maintain my dollars. So now I formatted this to be currency. I formatted this column to be numbers. I formatted this column to be text, and date. One thing you would observe about Excel also is that, based on the type of data you say you have in your column, Excel aligns your column of data. This one that is formatted to numbers, you see that it's aligned to the right. This one that is text is aligned to the left. Okay. Hello?
Yes.
Hello?
No problem, no problem.
Hello? Hello? Do you have a question? Okay. Can I continue, guys? Hello, guys.
Yes, please continue.
Okay. Okay. So I'll continue from.
Yes, you can.
Okay. So based on the kind of data you say you have in your column, Excel will, align it. This one I said I have currency. Excel is aligning my data to this side of the column. Here I said I have numbers, is aligning to this side. Here I said I have text. Excel is aligning to this side and this side. So that's just for you to keep in mind. Don't say why are my data sets, why are they going to the other side of the page? Why is one on this side and why is the other on another side? It's not your fault. It's because of the kind of data type. Hello? Okay. So that's dependent on the type of. Now, what we need to do is, since we have a series of date entries, what we can look to do, is to format our data forward. We can say, okay, we want to sort our data based on our date. You know that normally this is a mixture of 2014, 2015, 2014, 2015 now. And I have, 2014 and 2015 coming in between each other. So I want to just, format my data so that everything can be properly lined up. So let me try to sort that. So sort ascending. So one thing about your sorting is that whenever you're sorting, you have to click on expand and sort in Excel. If you expand and sort, then Excel will take all of this row like this and go and place it actually where it's supposed to be. But then if you just sort without expanding, Excel will just only sort based on this row and will leave these other ones. Excel will leave them in place. So that's why you need to expand whenever you're sorting in Excel. So I'll choose to sort again. Okay, so Zoom is telling me that this meeting is going to end in the next 10 minutes. So when the meeting ends in the next 10 minutes, we are going to start the meeting again. So we all can join again. It's just happening because the meeting was set to 40 minutes and we spent a lot of time waiting before the meeting started. So once the meeting ends, you guys can just, join in again. We'll continue the class from wherever we stop when the meeting ends. So what I'll do is I'll select my column, then I'll say sort ascending. So once I say sort ascending, then I'll say Excel should expand for the other columns and sort. Don't just sort me the column date. I want you to sort the other columns too. So once I work with that, you see that Excel not only sorts this column I have selected, but sort every other column like that too. You can see now, sorry, my data is starting from January 6th, 2014, then January 23rd, 2014, then February 9th, 2014. So my data is sorted now since I have January, February, March, April, May, June. So everything has been sorted in ascending order with the least date in 2014 being the first and the last date in 2015 being the last on my table. So since I've achieved that, the next thing we should be thinking to do is to, try to look at our data. Try to look at, is there anything that is not correct in our data? Are there places in this data where we have impurities, things that we need to remove, things that we need to change, things that, are not looking so well? So we call that concept data cleaning. So we'll not be doing very much of data cleaning here, but then I'll be introducing you to the concept and showing you how to clean data. So for data cleaning to be easy, for the process of data cleaning to be easy for you each time, you need to make a table out of your data. If you choose not to make a table out of your data, it will be so complex for you to, please mute your mics.
Tom, that speakers is on. Please tell them to unmute.
Hello?
Tell some guys to unmute their speaker. It's disturbing.
Hello, please mute your speakers. Mr. Nwachuku. Yeah, thank you. So, I got distracted. So you need to create a table. The essence of you creating a table is that so that you'll be able to find anywhere there are errors in your data, where there are, points that are not supposed to be, or things that you need to remove, or things that you need to change. So it is easy to create our table. What we just need to do is, select our range of data. Select the range where you have all your data. So what I'll do is just select all of this, like I've selected this now. So once I select it, all I have to do is very easy. I just come to insert, and I say, Excel, insert a table right here. Then Excel is going to ask me a question. Does this table have headers? Yes, remember we have headers, right? Our headers are date, branch, sales agent, products, units, and price. So I'll say my table has headers. Yes, and I'll say okay. So once I do that, you see Excel creating for me a table. Now Excel has made for me a table. The essence of me converting my range to this table in the first place is so that I can be able to look through each column and see if there are inconsistencies.
Please
Now,
kindly come again, sir.
okay. Let me Control Z to see. Okay, so I'm back to the range now. Before you start cleaning your data, at least you have to know where the errors are in the first place. If you are going to change something, if you are going to remove an error, you need to locate where the error is in your data. And it is hard to, locate errors in your data if you are working with a range like this. This is just a range. This is range A1 to, what's the last alphabet here? Last cell here, F44. So you are not working with a table yet. Despite the fact that this looks like a table, this is not a table. It's just a range. It's just you imputing data in cell after cell, cell after cell. So for you to be able to find where errors are in your data, you need to convert your data to a table. So what do? You select the data in the range of data to the last value here. Then you say insert. So you leave your home tab and come to insert. So once you come to insert, you insert your table. So once you say insert table, yes, our table has headers. So we leave that check. If your table does not have headers, you uncheck that. But since our table has headers, our headers are date, price, unit, and the rest like that. So since we have that, I say okay. And you see that my table will be automatically created. Do you get that now? To the person that asked that question.
Yes, I do.
Okay. Thank you for asking. So now I have my table. I can start looking at what to do with the table. Since I have my table now, and the goal for creating the table was to inspect each column of the data to see if there are abnormalities or there are things that are not supposed to be, or there are wrong values, so that I can correct them. So now let's look into each column to see. Now let me remind you that for this data set we have okay, let me bring this in. Each time you are going to get a data from whoever is going to give you data to work on, there's something we call a data dictionary. Let me write that down. There's something we call a data dictionary. So the concept of a data dictionary is just to tell you what you have in each column of data. Like for this date now, what do you have there? What should you expect in this data you are looking at? And some other basic things that are heads up that the analyst needs to know before he starts, working on the data he wants to work on. So from let's say from the data dictionary we got from this data set now, this data set is only supposed to be for the sales that were made in year 2014 and year 2015. So if, for instance, we have any, let me format this a minute, sorry. So if, for instance, we have any date here that is less than 2014 or that is greater than 2015, that date is not correct. It was a mistake by the person that imputed the data, because the company already said they are giving you a data set of between year 2014 and 2015 to work on. Do we all get what I'm trying to explain?
Yes, I do.
Okay. If you get that, we can move on then. So let's look into our date column and see. You will see the importance of why I made this a table now. Once I made this a table, I can easily come to this filter. Is this a tab now? I can easily come to this filter tab and filter my data to see all the values that are under this date column. And that is the importance of always working with a table. If you are not working with a table, you cannot be able to filter this column and see all the values that are in it at a glance. So let me show you what I'm talking about. So once I click this, I see the various years that are in my data here. You can see that I'm having different years. I'm supposed to have 2014 and 2015, but I'm having 2025. I'm having 2034. How is that happening? So that means that I have some impurities, some unclean entries in my data set. So what I'll do is I'll go and check. I won't check the other ones. 2015 is supposed to be here, so I won't check it. 2014 is supposed to be in this data set, so I won't check it too. But I will check 2020, 2034, and 2025 because I want to go and check there what is happening at that particular point, right? So once I say apply, Excel will take me to that place. Now Excel has taken me to that place. I can see that, okay, there's actually a full entry for that date. And we have, we have date, a particular date. We have a branch. We have a sales agent that sold that day. You can see that laptops were actually sold. If there were no sales that day, we can consider removing the data, and if there was no transaction at all. But since there was a transaction, we have to find something to do about that date. So remember the last time I was teaching us, okay, there are two ways that we can actually solve this problem. There are two common ways that we can solve this problem. The entries here, this is 2025 and this is 2034. You can look at this place and say, okay, the person that inputted the 2025 was just trying to put in 2015 because the data was actually only supposed to be for 2014 and 2015. So we can say this was supposed to be 2015 and it was an error on the part of the person that took the data. And we can also say that this okay. I hope you can see my screen again now. You are welcome again. Can you guys see my screen now?
Yes, I can see your screen.
Okay,
now.
you're welcome back. You're welcome back. Other guys, please confirm if you can see my screen now.
Yes.
Okay, so you're welcome back, guys. Like I said, there are two strong ways we can decide to solve this problem of this strange dates we have here. We can decide to say, since we said the data from we have is from 2014 to 2015. So please mute your mics, please. Hello. Okay. So we can decide to correct this and change this to 2015, and we can decide to correct this also and change this to 2014. But then I will use both ways, right? So that we can get the concept. The essence of me using both ways. I could easily just change that to 2014 and 2015, but then I'll use both ways so that we can understand the concept. Because I taught us sometimes ago, the concept of measurement of central tendencies, mean, mode, and median. So we are going to be using that concept here briefly. So this one has to do with 2025. Let's use the first way to correct that. Let's change this to 2015, since we know that the years we are dealing with is 2014 and 2015. So I'll correct that and change this to 2015. And the moment I change that, the moment I change that, you can see that if we filter our data again, we don't have 2025 here again. What we have here is 2014, 2015, and 2034, because we have corrected the 2025 and we have changed it to 2015. So now to deal with this 2034, let me correct it using the other way, right? Since we still have our 2034 as a problem here. Okay. One thing you have to always keep in mind is that anytime you have a value that is ambiguous in your row of data, that is either date, you have numbers, you have currency, and just quantitative values. What you have to do is you have to find the mean or the median of the data. So once you find the mean or the median of that column of data, you replace that strange value or that outlier. We call them outlier. That means they're out of range. You replace that outlier with the mean or the median of that column of data. Depending on the data, and some people prefer to work with the mean, and some people prefer to work with the median. This class is not the class for us to dive in deep and start explaining the concept of how they vary. So you just have to keep in mind that you have to, work with your mean and work with your median. Times where you have that kind of problem. So what I will do is I will decide to work with my mean here. So let me show all the rows of data back. So once I show everything, what I will do is that I will come under this my column date, and I will say equal to, and I will find the mean, right? I'll find the mean, sorry, average. The function average is to find mean. I'll find the average, of this column of data. Now, if you are finding the average, one thing you have to keep in mind is that you should not still add that ambiguous value that you are trying to correct. You should not still add it to the average when you are trying to calculate the average to replace it with. It's very important. If you want to calculate the average that you want to replace an outlier with, you don't still add that outlier to the calculation of your average. So since I've selected the total range and I know that outlier is there, I'll find it and remove it so that my average can be calculated with that. Okay, it's even at the bottom. It makes it more easy. So I'll just hold my control and click on it. You see that Excel marks it as red. So it has been removed from my range. So I'm calculating average from A2 to A44, excluding this last row, which is A44. So what I'll do is I'll just close my bracket and enter. Okay, I will come to actually solving the problem if you are dealing with a text. I'll come to that. You remember we are taking it column by column, right? So let's sort this column first before we move on to the next column. So you can see that when I calculated the average of this column of date, it gave me this value. So this value now is the value I'm going to come and replace this 2034 value with, this average value. The essence of us as data analysts replacing any ambiguous value with average or mean is because when you use average to replace any value in a data set, it does not really affect the data set. It does not swing it in any way. So it's just like you are just working normally. You don't want anything to affect your data the way it is. If you decide to input any other value that is wrong in that place, it can affect the data set in a very terrible way and change your result. So at the end of the day, if you see somebody that gets the accurate value that is here and uses it, and me that I'm using average to fill in for it, we'll still get the same results. Very, 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 very close to the results. If there will be difference, maybe points, something. So I'm going to replace this. So I'm going to copy. I've selected copy now. So what I'll do is I will come here and I'll replace it with that 11/21/2015. So that's beautiful. So once I've replaced that, I can get my average out of the way. Now that I've done that, let's filter our data and see if we still have our data column and see if we still have ambiguous data. So now we have only 2014 and 2015 remain. So we can say that column of data is sanctified, and we can move on to check what's happening in the next column. So we come to column B now. Once we filter the column again, we can see that there are inconsistencies. For instance, I'm supposed to deal with 3 towns here, I guess. I'm supposed to be dealing with the towns are, I'm supposed to be dealing with GRA. I'm supposed to be dealing with OG. I'm supposed to be dealing with I think town. Yeah, town. All this you will know from your data dictionary, because the person that is giving you the data to analyze actually knows where he has his branches. So you are going to know if they have a branch somewhere or they don't. So that is not something to worry about. So what I'll do is I'll come and filter here and check the values I have. I see that some values are inconsistent, right? So what do I need to do? I just need to find those places and replace them with the correct values. For instance, I have GR. Let me deselect all first. I have GR. I know that that's not supposed to be. I have GRE. That's not supposed to be too. This other guy too is not supposed to be. So I select all the values that are not supposed to be here. Select them out. I select them. Yeah. Select this guy too. Because they are not looking like these 3 towns that we actually, these 3 branches that we are supposed to have. Sorry. Those are branches, not town. Okay. So now Excel has taken me to where those values are. So I can look at whatever is happening there, and change the values. Now, there are different ways I can choose to change these values actually. I have different ways I can choose to go by it. It depends on, so I will show us a couple of ways that we can just go by it. One way I can decide to do it is just, come here. Since I know what is supposed to be actually, I correct it manually and say, this is supposed to be here. But then many times you are working with long data sets and maybe you don't have the luxury to start doing that. Excel gives you another option that can help you solve your problem very fast. So once I know that these are my problems, I don't need to stress myself so much. I can come and use the find and replace option in Excel. So what I'll do is I'll come to this symbol right here that looks like a lens, right? So I'll say I want to find and replace. Once I say find and replace, what I need to do is, I need to select or type in whatever that is wrong that I want to replace. This is GRE, for instance, and it's supposed to be GRE. I want to replace that. So I'll say I want to replace GRE. What am I replacing it with? I'm replacing it with GRA. So once I do that, I click down to see more options. Then there is one thing that is very important if you are finding and replacing with Excel. Please, you have to keep that in mind. You have to match entire cell content. You have to match entire, in fact, let me explain that concept before I do whatever I want to do. Okay. For instance, let's take a look at this. Let me zoom in so we can use this as example. Let's say I have Woj, for instance, here. This is incorrect. And I have the same branch. I'm writing the correct name now. WOJI is the correct name. So what I want to do is that I want to find this and I want to replace it. So once I select this and I come and pick my tool and I say replace, right? I will replace, I want to replace WOJ, right? With WOJI. Now, if I come here and I don't match my entire cell content, look at what Excel will do to me. Look at what Excel will do. So let me make it within my selection. I want to replace within my selection. So let me say replace all. You see what Excel is doing to what I did? This was Woj originally, WOJ. Excel converted it to WOJI. But this one that was WOJI already, Excel still converted the WOJ to another WAJ. So I'm having WOJ and double I. I don't know if you get what I'm trying to explain. Please, let's come in now. Do we get what I'm trying to explain?
Yes, yes.
Yes. So that is what Excel will do if you don't match the entire cell content. So you have to match the entire cell content. Let's see how that will change if I had matched the entire cell content. Let's see what would have happened. Let me see what would have happened. Sorry, let me reload this. Okay. Okay. So now let's work on our data. So I'm selecting all of this now. I want to find and replace values. So I'm saying replace values. So I'm just going to do everything at once so that we can get on with it. So I want to replace GRE. I want to change it to GRE actually. So my search options, I'm going to say match the entire cell content. I'm going to do my change within my selection. So I already selected the range. So I'm going to say replace all GRE, make them GRA, right? So replace. Okay. So GRE now has been replaced to GRE as we can see. Then I'm going to replace GR too. Replace my GR to GRA. So I'm going to replace that too, since I said I have GRA, which is not correct. So replace. Then I have this WOGE too, WOGE, which I want to change to WOJI, right? So I'm going to replace that too. I'm going to replace that. So you can see that that is replaced here already. Then there is another incorrect spelling, right? Which is this. I want to correct this too. So I'll correct that in the same way. Correct that in the same way. Then I have town here. There's an O missing that I want to correct. So I'll say I want this TWN written for me as town. Town, right? So I replace that too. Then there's still another one here. TOW, I guess. I have another TOW. So I want that as town too. Okay. Then finally, this OJI. OJI is not supposed to be here. So I know that the person is actually trying to type the other town. So I replace that. Yes. So once I replace that now, I can close this. Then I can come and, check that column of data. I see that everything is the way it should be now. Now I have the only 3 towns that I'm supposed to have. Then I can apply and see that, okay, everything is fine now. So that means I've done what I should do on this column. Then you can move to the names column. You have to do the same thing too. But I don't think there's anything we really need to clean here. But you have to check column by column. You are working on the data to know what you have to clean and what you are not to clean. So let's check the names. We have Blessing, Chinedu, Chioma, Emeka, George, and the other names here. If there are any names that are not supposed to be there or that are not employees there, you should have them and you should know that they are not supposed to be there. So, but since we have nothing to do here, let's check the next column. Okay. So we have our laptop products. We have Apple, we have Compaq, we have Dell, we have HP, we have Lenovo. Okay. So we don't have a problem here too. Then we have our units, the units sold. The units sold. The units sold. So this unit sold is just, how many units of the laptop was sold in a particular day by a sales agent. Now, yes, you can have an outlier here sometimes when you have very ambiguous value. That is why you need to keep in touch with the people that you're working with. If you see that you have very ambiguous value that looks to be suspicious, you have to get across to them and contact them. This value, oh boy, how is it happening? I saw one very ambiguous value. Then they will try to match that. If that is correct, then they will tell you that's correct. If that's not correct, then they are going to let you know that that is not correct. So, but then we really have nothing to do in this our other columns. So, but then even if you have 20 columns of in your data, you have to look one by one and try to correlate and find and remove things that should not be and leave the actual things that you want there. In fact, most of the time, data cleaning will take 90. I think somebody says data cleaning takes 85 to 90% of your time. You need to spend your time to clean your data. Clean data is clean results. On clean data, you get something that you don't want to get, and you don't want that. You want to get the best result out of your data to be able to give your employers the best insights that will help them, to drive their growth, to help them make more sales, to help them focus their energy on where they need to focus their energy on. So before I move to the next step, I don't know if there's anything confusing us. If you have any questions, let them come up now so I can treat them before I move on to doing what we have next, right? Do we have any questions? Hello, guys. Anything you want to ask about that is not clear?
None from my end.
Hello.
I think you can proceed.
Okay, please, one by one. Okay.
Okay. Sorry, can I go ahead or I have to wait for others?
No, talk. You are the one that is
All
on.
right, thank you.
So once you
All
are
right.
done, I think the other person can come and talk.
I was just added to the group chat, I think like an hour ago, if I'm not
Okay.
mistaken, or 1 hour, 30 minutes back.
Okay.
Now, so I just have to say this,
Okay.
that this is my first class that I'm joining
Oh,
today. Yeah, so I've not been around before now, and
okay.
the invite was just sent to me on WhatsApp, like, if I'm
Okay.
not mistaken, 2 hours ago.
Okay.
Now, I was thinking, I want to presume that this slide you actually used in explaining this class to us today would have been sent to the group chat earlier, if I'm right.
Okay. What
Okay.
happened is that this slide is going to be made available. So, and the
All right.
video recording of the class is going to be made available so that people
All
can
right.
practice and get.
All right. Because okay. Sorry to cut you short, please. Sorry, please. Because that's what I'm actually banking on. So I think once we have the slides over and
Yes,
this
yes.
presentation, I can actually go over all over the recordings again, and then so that I can be able to catch up with the
I,
class. Is
I,
that
I
fine?
get I get your point, and I'm happy that you are joining us, even though it's for the first time. So you are very much welcome. What will happen is after the class, the recordings are going to be sent out. I hope you're on the group chat, right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I'm on the
So the
group chat.
recordings are going to be sent out. Then I'm going to send an exercise file out too, so that you guys can pause and play and watch as many times as you want to get until you get a
Beautiful.
full grasp of it. Then if you have any questions after that, you can reach out to me. I'm on the group chat too. I'll be more than happy to answer you.
Wow. Thank you very much.
Okay,
Thank you. I'm very
please.
grateful.
You're
Thank you.
welcome. Let the other person. Please, you can.
Yes, yes. You can go ahead. Sorry. Yes. Thank you.
I thought there was one other person coming in the other time. Please ask your question.
Please, I want to ask if
Okay.
where you're doing the replace of the
I was
branches,
doing.
the replace of branches that you're trying to correct the GR
Okay.
from
That was correcting the
to
branch
make it
names, right?
GRA. Yes, yes.
Okay.
I wanted to because I'm on the road, so
Sorry, I
I'm
can't hear you
trying to
now.
know where you clicked on.
I can't.
Because
I can't
no,
hear
I
you
was
now.
on the road, so
Okay.
I didn't get where you clicked on. That
Okay.
was that. I
Are
don't
you,
know if you can hear me.
yes, I can
Hello.
hear you. I understand what you're trying to ask now. What will happen is that since there's going to be a recording of the
So
class,
I don't.
you can get when you get access to the
Okay.
recording, you can just go through that. Because if I have to go back and forth each time, there is no much time, right? So thank you so much.
Okay.
Yeah, so just lay hold on
Uh,
the recording after the class and the exercise file and just try to walk across it. If you have a problem at all, reach out to me. Okay. So now that we have worked on our table, we have used our table to actually clean our data. What we need to do now is to get some order. Okay, I think there is somebody here. Okay. Thank you too. Okay, so what we need to do now is we need to get some other parameters from this data we have. Yes, when you get a data, you might just have 4 columns, you might have 5 columns, but then when you are done getting everything you need from this data, you can get 20 columns, you can get 15 columns. That's data analysis, depending on how bogus or the kind of story you want to tell. As a data analyst, you just have to have an open mind, an inquisitive mind, an analytical mind, a mind that is ready to ask questions. As I'm looking at this data now, stories are already coming to my mind I want to tell with this data. What do I want to tell the world with this data? What are the hidden things in this data that I want people to know? So those things are what will drag you or drive you to get things you need to get. So I'm going to help us get a few things, not to take much of our time, just get few things that we are going to work with. And once I drop the exercise file later, if you feel like you still want to get so many other things and you want to tell other stories, fine. 2 data analysts can get a job and the story will be more than each other. So it's just about how engrossed you are in what you are doing. So let me erase this because I'm going to be using these places. So sorry, let me unfill it. Okay, so what I want to do is I want to get some other data from here, right? So from this same date column, I can get many other things. I can get my day out of it. I can get my month out of it. I can get my year out of it. Is that possible? Since we have a date, I can get my year out of it, right? Okay. So since we have a date, I can get my year out of it and I can get my month out of it. So how do I do that? Let me say, for instance, this is my month. I want to get my month out of it. So how do I get my month actually? What I'll do is I'll say month. Remember, whatever your formula you're typing in Excel, you have to start with an equal to sign. So I'll say equal to month. So once I say month, I click on this date. Excel should generate the month for me. Month of this. Okay. Coming. Let me walk back. Let me convert this table back to a range. Let me see what's happening. So if I say month of this, there's something I'm doing wrong here. Oh, sorry, I get why this is not working out. Sorry. I created a filter the other time that I didn't clear. Sorry. One of the things you have to be very mindful of when you are working with a filter, when you create a filter, you have to clear your filter. Let me try clear this. Okay. That was my mistake. Let me get back to that. Here what's happening now. Yeah. So let me convert this back to a range. So I'll convert the table back to a range. Then let me erase these colors for now so we can see what we need to do. I don't want to fill it with any color yet. So let me make my text color black. Okay, so we are back with our data. So I want to extract, like I said, I want to extract the month, the name of the month out of this my date column. So what I'll do is I'll say my month. What's happening with my formulas? Supposed to load this formula. Okay. I think something is wrong with this. None of my formula is loading, sir. Let me see. Okay. Okay, my formulas are loading now. So let me do that again. I don't know what's wrong with this column. The column. Okay. So I will say my month, right? So once I select my month, then I'll select the date. So once I select the date, then I can enter. You see that this is telling me that. So let me say this month number. Month number. I say that this is telling me that this is my first month. And it actually is my first month because the date here started with a month. So this is January 6th, 2014. Let me try to replicate that for the other rows. Let's see what will happen. Okay. So this is January, like we see here, January 6th, 2014. This is January 2, January 23rd, 2014. This is February. February is the second month, right? So that's why we have the number 2. But then this might look confusing to people. So whenever you are plotting your charts, you don't want to use your month number to plot charts. You want to use your month name instead. So what I will do is I will say month name. Month name. Let me make that bold with this. So what I will do with my month name is there's a function called text. So once I say text, make my date a text, then give me the name of the month. Give me the name of the month. Okay. You see that this my 1 is becoming January, right? So this should become February. This should become March. This should become April. So let me touch the function again. The function text, the way I used it is just, I called the function text on this date. That means I'm telling Excel to turn this date into a text. So once it turns it into a text, this 1, which is the month name, becomes January. And I'll tell you that from that January, pick the first 3 letters, which is 1, 2, 3. Pick the first 3 characters. So that was why this gave me January. Do we get what I'm trying to explain, guys? Hello, guys. Are we here? Or should I explain again?
Yeah, I get it, but
Yeah,
I didn't get the what's it called? The 3 characters you input
Okay.
after the 8.
Okay, let me explain that. Is an inbuilt function in Excel. Let me do that again. Is an inbuilt function in Excel. The way we do it is we say equal to, the name of the function is called text, right? So once I say text, it converts a value to a text. So me calling this function text now and inputting this one inside, it means that I want to convert this date into a text. So once I convert into a text, I want to remove my month. So I'll say comma, and I'll put my month in quotation mark. Let me put only 1 M. You will see what will happen, right? Let me put only 1 M. You'll see what this will give me. It gives me the month name, but that's not what I want. It gives me the month number, but that's not what I want. Let me put 2 M's in. You'll see what will give me. It gives me the month number, but with 0 in front. As you know, 01 for January, 02 for February, 03 for March. But that's not what I want. I want the name. So I'll make the M3. So once I make the M3, it knows that I want, just the way they write it in calendars, the first 3 letters of the month. So it's going to automatically give me that. So that was simply what I did. So once you repeat that for the other rows, you have the name for all the other rows. Do we understand what I'm
Okay,
trying
I
to
get
explain
that.
now?
Yes, I get that now.
Okay. Okay, beautiful.
Thank you.
I think the 40 minutes is about to end. People will have to rejoin.
Hello?
Yeah, I said I think the 40 minutes for this session is about to end. So, they have to rejoin once it's.
Okay. Okay. So guys, just make sure to rejoin so that we can just, complete the class. So that's how to extract your month name from, from your date. Now, the formula does not only work with month name. You can extract your year too out of it. Let me show you. You can extract your year. The essence of we extracting all these things is, so that when you want to tell your story, you have a beautiful story to tell. If I want to tell a story now, I can tell a story of each month. What is the trend of the sales across all these months that I'm extracting? What is the trend of the sales across all these years that I want to extract? That's the beauty of this extraction. You will not see it now, but then if we begin to make graphs, we begin to make plots, you start seeing the beauty of it. So let me make this bold. If I call the function year on this, I want to get a year from this date. So it extracts the year for me, right? So my year can stand alone. I can say, okay, make that for every other row. So my year is coming out now, fine, right? So I can get my year. What other things can we get? You can decide to get your day. Yeah, it's fine. But most times when we're working with, you hardly need the day like that. Mr. Prince, do you have something to say? Okay. So you hardly need the day like that. So most of the stories you want to tell a story with the month, the sales across the month. You want to tell a story with the year, the sales across the year. Sometimes you want to tell a story with the quarter too. Sales across the quarter, first quarter, second quarter of the year, third quarter of the year, and fourth quarter of the year. So, but not to take much of our time because of the class. I don't want the class to be so long. So we are just going to keep moving. Then one important thing that is, okay, let me remove this month number since we are not really going to be using it. It is better for somebody to see January, February, March in their plots or in their this thing than to see, 1, 2. It is harder to understand this 1, 2, 3. So let me just remove it. I'm just showing you that you can get that too if you want. Okay, so let me insert another cell here and let me get, now we have, units of products sold, we have price. We can also calculate, the revenue. That's the total, the units of laptops sold and the price. So I'll just make a revenue column here. So my revenue column will be basically the unit of so-so sold and the price of that so-so is sold. So the formula to compute that is easy. So we just select this equal to sign, we select this, we put in the multiplication symbol in between, and we select this other guy, which is our price. So once we click on enter, we have our answer for each of the sales for the revenue. So I can double click on this so that it is repeated for every one of them. So yeah, I think we should stop with all the variables, all the other variables we are getting here, so that we can get to work. So is there anybody that does not understand a thing or another, so I can go through it before we move on to the next step? You don't understand a thing, you want me to touch again? Please talk now. Okay, well, I'm getting all the silence. I believe that everyone is clear on it. Okay, so let me move on. So if we have gotten all of this, I want to now expose us to the concept of pivot tables. I want to expose us to the concept of pivot tables. Let me make this a table again first, then we use a pivot table. Let me make this a table again. So I'll make this a table again. Don't forget, whenever you want to make a table, you come to insert and you say table. Yeah, my table has headers. I'll check that. So I've made this a table again. But now we are not making a table, we're making a pivot table. A pivot table is different from a table. Yes, a table will help you to filter your data. Like once I made this thing a table, I can filter my data and see all the months that are present in my data. I can see there's April, there's August, there's December, there's February, there's January, and everything like that. But with a pivot table, helps you to summarize your data in one way that you can actually aggregate, can perform many mathematical functions without stressing yourself. all those functions that we've been doing all the while, that we have been using formulas to calculate, a pivot table would actually, help you to work without all those formulas. Pivot table will do all of that for you briefly, sharply, in a way that you love it. So to insert a pivot table, what you do is just, stay anywhere in your table, stay anywhere at all, anywhere. So once you are anywhere in your table, just come to pivot table. Sorry, just come to insert and pivot table. So once you select insert a pivot table, it automatically selects your table, which is this. You can see my table is already selected. So I want to put my pivot table in a new worksheet. I don't want to put it in an existing worksheet. I want to put it in a new worksheet. Now I'm not going to select the location I want to put it. I want Excel to just put it somewhere in that new worksheet. So once I click on enter, Excel is going to create me my pivot table, right? Let me minimize this. Excel is going to create me a beautiful pivot table. So with this pivot table that Excel has given me now, I can start doing many calculations as I want to do. And with a pivot table, it's even very much easier for you to make plots. If you decide to want to make plots without pivot table, it's a very long journey. So pivot table is a very important topic in Excel. In fact, even if you are not applying for job roles that is related to data, hello guys, can we see my screen now? Hello? Hello?
Yes, yes.
Yes, you can see
Yeah,
the
welcome
screen.
back. Sorry about that. It's because of the duration of a meeting time has been set. Sorry. So okay. Do we get it up to this point before I continue?
Please, can you convert the data back to the table back to pivot table? Sorry,
This is a pivot table.
the main table.
You mean you want me to go back
Yes,
to the data?
yes, the data back to pivot table.
This is the data. The data is still here. It's not going anywhere. This is it. And this is the pivot table with another
Now
sheet.
just yes, how you created the pivot table. Sorry.
Okay. Let me delete that. So if you want to create a pivot table, it depends on the mood you are in. If you are on your table, you don't need to stress yourself selecting all your data. Or if you are not on a table, you have to select all the range of your data, then insert pivot table. But since I'm on a table mode now, all I need to do is just come and insert my pivot table in a new worksheet, right? So I have my pivot table coming out. Is that clear now?
Yes.
Okay. So like I was saying, concept of pivot table is very important. Even if you are not looking for the job of a data analyst. I have friends that are not working as analysts, but then pivot table is very important to them. In fact, many people would even ask if you know how to use it. And it does not mean you want to become an analyst. You just need to know how to use it. It's very important. It's like the cocoa of Excel. And if you understand the concept of pivot table, unless now that they are bringing in so many other features and making it look exactly like BI apps. But then pivot table will help you to summarize your data, do some extensive calculations, help you to make your plots easily. So it's something you should not brush aside. At least if you don't grab everything, make sure you get the concept of pivot tables. Very, very important. Okay. So now that we have our pivot table, we can start looking at our data in a very critical way and start to find meanings, try to find ideas, try to look for patterns, try to look for concepts in our data. So for instance, I can bring out my branch. You see I have my branches, all my branches out now. I have them in a rows. I can decide to bring out what is the total revenue that has been made in each branch? Let's see that. Okay. So these are the total revenue. See how pivot table is helping me break my calculations down without, using functions or using formulas or using anything. So just by dragging and dropping in your pivot table fields, you can make calculations already. So this is just a look into what is happening at each branch. From here now, I know that at this Woji branch is where I have most of my revenue. So most of my revenue is coming from here. I can decide to format this. Let me format this into currency, right? So it looks more appealing. So you know that we are talking about money here. So I can see from what my pivot table has given me here that most of my revenue is coming from Woji. Then GRA should follow, then town. Then because you are using pivot table, you can decide to sort. Let me say I want to sort descending. So I want the biggest number to be on top. So now the branch that is giving me most of the revenue is on top, right? And the one that is giving me the least revenue is beneath. From here, it is easy for you to make your plots. It's easy already for you to make your plot. So I'll show you a list of plots that I made out of this, and we'll make some of them too. Other things you can decide to do is you can decide to look at each month, right? You can say by month. Right? What is the revenue? To know which month is best for business. So I can come to this axis and come and sort in descending manner. So this tells me that December is where I make most of my revenue, right? So from this pivot table now, I can easily decipher that, okay, sales of laptop for that store in both year 2014 and 2015, most of the revenue came in December. So if I know that from this data, I can know what kind of advice to give the company owner. Now, remember that these months are broken into two different years. We have this month in year 2014, and we have this month in year 2015, since we are dealing with the data of 2 years. So I can bring my year into the chart. If I bring my year into the chart, you can see that my data is broken down now. December 2014, December 2015, they are separated from each other. Now, the other time, it only made a grand total of all December sales, both 2014 and 2015. But now I'm breaking them down into even more, what do we call them? I'm normalizing them, breaking them down. So we can start, getting our insights from there. But then, okay, let me go back to the very first chart. Whenever you don't want a column again in your box, you want to drag it out. It is easy. Just hold and drag it out, or uncheck here. You will have it out. Anyone you choose to do, I can uncheck. So let me go back to the very first one I made. Let me go back to I made, I think, revenue by branch, right? So I made my branch. I brought my branch right here in my rows. You can see, so my branch are listed in my rows. And I brought my revenue to my values. So I have this. So if I want to make a plot from this, all I need to do is just copy my pivot table here. Let me come and place them place like here. And I can come and insert a chart. I can come and insert a chart, a pie chart, for instance. I can come and insert a pie chart, for instance. I can say the title of my pie chart is, I want to make it, okay, this hanging. I want to make this revenue by branch. So this is my revenue by branch. Okay, that should work. Okay, I'm making that revenue by branch. So I have about 3 branches. So there are many things you can choose to do. You can choose to remove your legend, place your legend, can choose to make so many other manipulations. This is just like the background for everything you will be doing from here. Let me see if I think I have my chart column here too. Okay. Some of the calculations I did on my own, just to refresh before the class. Okay. So from this pivot table now, I can make a pie chart out of it. Okay. I can make a pie chart out of it. So this pie chart, you can still come and work on it and decide to, make it make more sense. So you add your series to it. Your data labels. I want my data labels to be here. Data label brings, the value on top of the chart itself. But then having this kind of values on your chart doesn't really explain anything. You want your percentage rather, because percentage tells a story. Tells a story better than having your values. So I'm having my percentage there now on the chart. You can decide to increase your font, make that bold. You can decide to make this bold too. I decided to make this bold too. So anybody that looks at a chart like this knows that, okay, you're working with 3 branches currently, and there is a branch that is, contributing more to your revenue than the others, which is this Woji branch, right? The one right here is contributing like ×2 of what GRE is contributing, because it's 30 to 57. So Woji branch is already contributing like ×2 of what revenue is coming in from GRE branch. And town is the branch where you have list of your revenue. So if the owner of the company, for instance, want to expand the stores or want to do something like that, definitely you should want to advise them to, to put more effort into this Woji branch, and rather than coming to expand this town or GRA where you have less revenue coming in. They want to stock more, he wants to do so many things like that. He has to first consider this branch. So before I continue, to bring in other charts and to make other ones, are we getting the concept? Are we getting the concept? I just want us to get accustomed to the concept. We can't take everything about this in this class, but just to familiarize us with what we are doing. Hello, guys. Hello. Are we getting the concept? Please, I want to hear everyone talk now.
Yes.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Okay. So I'm just, trying to open our eyes to what we are doing and, the beauty of it. That's what we are doing tonight. You can still go on to create a dashboard even in Excel. You don't have to wait till you get to Power BI to create a beautiful dashboard for your work. You also put in sliders to do all those things and make everything just look beautiful. You can do all that in Excel too. Okay. Then we can decide to let me bring back my pivot table. So sometimes you might need to bring back your pivot table. What you do is just come back to this table. Then that's right click. Once you right click, say show fields list. So once you say show field list, it brings you your pivot table fields back. So for instance, I want to change that. I want to make another table. I want to make like sales agent and revenue by sales agent. I want to know which sales agent is bringing in most money to my company and which one is not doing anything. It's just there, not selling. So now that we have this out, I can filter. I'll sort my revenue. Once I sort this, I can see that Emeka is at the top of the chain. Igbo boys, more business minded. So it makes more sales than every other person in the company. So you can also choose to bring this out, come and represent this in a chart. and bring this out, you know, and come and make a chart for that. Now, the reason why I'm not sorting all of this and making a big dashboard is because that's not part of this class. That's another thing entirely. So, but I'm just trying to get you guys to get the concept of what we are doing. So I can pick that. I can come and insert another chart, right? Come here. Let me look for one not so bad chart. Let me use something like this. Okay, I can use something like this. I can say, okay, this is my revenue by salesperson, right? Salesperson, right? Salesperson. Yes, I can say this is my revenue by salesperson. Yes, I can say this is my revenue by salesperson, and I can still do many other things to this. I can off my legend. So, you know, to give you that kind of dashboard convention, just remove all these things that are not making much sense. You can come to your horizontal axis, right? Remove your display axis. Just make your, all these are just aesthetics. You just need to understand the basic thing. All these ones can be learned over time. You just need to understand the basic concepts of what you want to do. Then okay, let me add a data label to that so that I can show on mine. Okay, so I'm adding a data label. So for each salesperson now, you are seeing how much sales they made. You are seeing a maker at the top of the chart with the most of the sales. Then what I want to do here. So many things you can do. Right. So let me remove my major grid line. Remove my major grid line. So now this is telling me a story of the sales by each salesperson in this company. This is telling me the story of, you know, the revenue by each branch of the company, right? It does not end there. You might have more things to look at. For instance, I can come here and say, okay, this is what I want to do. I want to make, okay, let's see monthly revenue. How much money is entering? You can look at how much laptops are sold. Okay, which laptop is the best sold? Let's look at that. Let's look at our products. Let's look at our products. Let's look at our units. The count of our units. Okay, so I don't want this. I want this general format because I want to make it a count. What I'm simply doing, let me take you to the sheet to show you what I'm doing. What I want to do is, for instance, Lenovo in this instance, they sold 95 units. Lenovo here, they sold 36 units. So I want to make a sum of Lenovo 95, Lenovo 36, Lenovo 75, Lenovo 90, and like that, to know over the 2 years which product has been selling the most. Is it Lenovo? Is it HP? Is it this? Is it the other one? So that's what I want to do. That's what I want to do. Okay. Okay. So that's it. So from here, we can see that Apple has been selling least. Yes, that's understandable. Maybe because Apple is very expensive. And the one that has been selling most is HP, right? HP have been selling the most. So I can decide to make that into a chart. So let's bring this somewhere. Try to make that into a chart to tell a story about that too. tell a story about that. Let me come and make a chart for that. Okay. So you can now decide to format your charts. I decide to format your chart. Sales counts, for instance, by product. How to make that your sales count by product. I want to do your basic formattings. You want to remove your legend. You want to so many things you can do with that. So let me take you into my chart to see some of the things I just did. So I had a pie chart for that, the revenue by branch to show each branch and the revenue. I didn't even format this at all. So this is showing each month and each year. So this blue is January of 2014. This orange is January of 2015. So we had more of sales in January of 2014 than January of 2015. Do you see? So, but most of the sales, for 2015 came in December, August, and February. So that's why it looks like, at some point, the sales in 2015 came to later overtake the sales in 2014. So we have to now be asking questions. What really happened in December, August, and February of 2015? Finding insight in your data should push you to ask questions. So there are many other charts you can make. Okay, I think I made a donut chart, okay, for the revenue by year, showing that more revenue was made in 2015 than 2014. It was a close gap actually, but just about 8% increase was made in the sales. Then you have this revenue by product. HP sold most than every other one. Then the revenue by month. So you can see how the revenue was falling and rising over the year 2014, 2015. So there are still many other things you can decide to do with this data. You can make a quarter out of it and look at the sales in the first quarter, look at the sales in the second quarter, look at the sales in the third and fourth quarter, compare them, look at which quarter is so best for the business, which quarter is not so best. But because of time, I'm just trying to cut this thing short and get us to understand the concept behind it. If you understand the basic concept with little help, I think you can continue building and building and building and building upon that.